Baseball legend Pete Rose died on Monday at the age of 83. He is a controversial figure due to betting on the sport as a manager, and the discussion around his legacy and impact on baseball is one that we need to have. So let's do it with New York Post sports columnist Mike Vaccaro, who joins me now. Mike, how you doing?
I'm good, Dexter. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Can't complain. And Mike, I want to talk to you about Pete Rose, who is Major League Baseball's all-time leader in hits. He was a 17-time All-Star in a career that spanned 24 years. Now, for the kids out there, people like myself who didn't get to see Pete Rose play in real time, how good was Pete Rose on the field?
Well, he was the best hitter of all time if you count hits. And he had 67 more than anybody else who ever played. So to me, he's one of two guys that had 4,000 hits along with Ty Cobb, 17-time All-Star and MVP. Undoubtedly one of the best baseball players who ever played the game, and did it for a long time. He was a star in his 20s, he was a star in his 30s, and he was a star in his 40s. And if you don't think that's hard to do, go look up to see how many other baseball players had that kind of longevity and had that kind of standard of play for that long.
Yeah, it's the longevity that is very, very impressive when you talk about Rose's career. Now, while managing the Cincinnati Reds, Rose was accused of betting on baseball. He received a lifetime ban from the sport. He did admit to betting on the sport 20 years ago. But did that lifetime ban overshadow his legacy? And what is the legacy of Pete Rose when it comes to the sport of baseball?
Well, sadly, I think it strangled his legacy. I think that's all people think about now, or at least it's the first thing people think about now. Maybe not his acolytes in Cincinnati and some in Philadelphia, but I think most people who look at Pete Rose now think of him as a liar and a gambler. And that's unfortunate because he was such a great player. And it shadowed him throughout his life. He was, he would make sort of half-measure admissions through the years, but he never fully came clean, which is what baseball wanted to hear. And more than anything, they wanted to hear contrition. And sadly, toward the end, I think he became more of a guy who, and look, I understand that baseball's alliance with gambling houses smacks of hypocrisy, especially particular to Pete Rose's case. But the fact of the matter is he bet on baseball as a member of Cincinnati Reds organization, and that's the first cardinal sin of baseball, and ought to be, because it speaks to the credibility of the game in the same way steroids did. So he deserved punishment. I think if he had shown complete contrition by the end, I think that hope maybe something might have changed, although the two sides are so dug in. I'm afraid they never were going to be in his lifetime, and now we know that they never will be.
Yeah, we know now that it never will be, and that brings me to the last question I want to ask you, because Rose is banned from baseball. It's remained a controversial issue. He is baseball's all-time leader in hits, as you mentioned, singles, games played, at-bats, and plate appearances, but he's not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So considering the lifetime ban no longer exists now that his life is over, should Pete Rose go into the Hall of Fame now?
Well, I mean, I know I speak for most of the members of the Baseball Writers Association of America who vote on the Hall of Fame, at least for a player's first 10 years, and in Rose's generation, the first 15 years of their eligibility. We never got a chance to vote because baseball demanded the Hall of Fame not put his name on a ballot because he was on the permanently banned list. And so we never got a chance to vote on it. At the time when he was banned, I think he had a really good chance of getting in because the voting block was comprised of people who had actually covered him and watched him play. And I think that they were able to distinguish the player from the manager. Now that voting block is completely different, and only a handful of us ever watched him play. And most of the younger writers only know of Rose the scoundrel, if you will. And in the same way that a lot of them have been hardliners when it comes to the steroid guys when it's their turn on the ballot, I think they would be the same way toward him now. Now, if they bypass us, he's got another set of problems because if he goes to the Veterans Committee, there have been a number of old-time baseball players. While he had a lot of cronies in the sport, he also had a lot of peers who couldn't stand what he did and thought that what he did brought shame to the game. Ask Johnny Bench his thoughts about Pete Rose's involvement with gambling and see what his answer is. And there were a lot of people of that generation who feel the same way. I'm not sure he'd even get a great shake of things if it went just straight to the Veterans Committee. But look, if he didn't bet on baseball, this is one man's opinion, I think he deserves to be in. We'll never know now if he ever actually did bet on baseball. We can all have our suspicions. But when I voted for steroid guys, I distinguished between guys who were proven guilty and guys who were thought to be guilty. And I would do the same thing with Rose. And if push came to shove, I would probably vote yes.
Good answer there, Mike. It is a very controversial and complicated issue. Pete Rose passing away on Monday at the age of 83. We will see what the future holds if he is ever elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame now that he is no longer here. That is Mike Vaccaro, the great sports columnist for the New York Post. Mike, always a pleasure talking about everything in sports. Thank you for taking your time to talk on this matter about Pete Rose. Appreciate you.
Dexter, always great talking to you. Thanks a lot.